Hello, God bless you, whoever you are listening to this message today. My name's Felix, and I'd like to share a few thoughts with you today from the book of Proverbs, chapter 14 and verse 12. And it says something like this: "There's a way that seems right to a man, but it leads to death." There's a way that seems right to man, but the way of it leads to death. You know, we all have an upbringing. Every one of us has been taught a set of moral rights and wrongs. Every one of us has a background. It doesn't matter if you're a travelling man or a gorger man. It doesn't matter if you're black or white. It doesn't matter if you're from the UK or from Africa or wherever you come from. We all have an upbringing. We all have a way of living that we think is right. But when we become Christians, we declare that we're now followers of Christ, because that's what the word means. The word Christian means follower of Christ. And we're to follow in his footsteps and do what he wants us to do. No longer should we call ourselves, African or British or American. No longer should we call ourselves, Chinese or travelers or gorgeous. We're just Christians. First and foremost, and above all things, we're Christians. And there'll be circumstances in our lives that we'll come across as we're walking with God, where it calls for us to put our upbringing to one side and to walk as Christians. There's been many a times in my own life when I face situations and my own upbringing, my own sense of right and wrong has taught me to lash out, has taught me to stand up, has taught me to defend myself, has taught me to stop being a fool and to get on in life, has taught me to look out for number one. And every single time I've had to do what the Bible says to do. I've had to deny myself and pick up my cross and follow Christ, because that's what the Bible says. Deny ourselves and follow Christ. And if we want to be a Christian, if we want to be a true blue, so to speak, then we've got to put our upbringing to one side a lot of the times in our life and do what God tells us to do. Not what man tells us to do. Not what our background or our tradition or our culture or our people tells us what to do. But to do what God tells us to do. This will be hard, it'll be difficult, and we may fail. There may be many times that we fail. I've failed many times. But the important thing is this, that we have a desire and a hunger and a want to do things in the right way, to follow God in the right way, to be a Christian first and foremost above all things. I visit many churches in a year, and whenever I go there and I get talking and they find out that I'm a travelling man, they normally say something on the lines of, "Oh, it's great to meet a gypsy Christian." And I normally say, "I'm not a gypsy Christian." And they say, "What do you mean? You're a gypsy and you're a Christian, ain't you?" And I say, "Yes, but I'm not a gypsy Christian. I'm a Christian who happens to be a gypsy. And if you're black, you're a Christian who happens to be black. And if you're a Jew, you're a Christian who happens to be a Jew. Your Christianity must come first, and our upbringing must come second. Otherwise, we'll come up with all sorts of excuses to allow ourselves to do all sorts of things, to be involved in all sorts of things, because we're not putting Christ first. To be a Christian first is to say, I'm putting Christ first in my life, and my morals and my upbringing and everything else is taking second place. Now that will be difficult to do. It'll be hard to do, almost impossible at times. We may fail many times. But what the Bible says is this: what's impossible with man is possible with God. And with God's grace and God's mercy and love, every time we have a desire to do what our tradition, what our upbringing, what our set of right and wrong tells us to do, with His grace and mercy, He'll help us to overcome that and to do it in the Christian way, in the Christ-like way, to serve Him and to walk in His ways. This is my challenge for you today. It's a challenge for me today to walk more like Christ. May God bless you, and may the love of God be with you today.